We have a quorum present. Matt had a last-minute family reason that he could not attend tonight, and Brad, we tried to call, but he was not picking up, so we may link him in as the meeting proceeds. Next item is approval of the minutes of our July 14th meeting. Is there a motion?
Make the motion.
Second.
Moved by Nate, second by Bob. Is there discussion on the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, minutes are approved. We always reserve time for the public in attendance to comment if they would like. Tony and Daphne, we will actually be moving forward to your agenda item in a bit, so if you want to hold for that, you can. Melissa? Not tonight, okay. Look at that, good timing. Training second.
This one right here.
Part of the convenience and functionality of traditional towns comes from their mix of land uses. Instead of pushing the needs of daily life farther apart from one another, as became common in the suburban zoning experiment after World War II, the time-tested way of building towns is to deliberately bring a range of human activities closer together. That way, you can find many of the things you need right in your neighborhood, within walking distance. For example, you might be able to walk from your home to a corner store or to a cafe without having to drive there and then search for a parking space there. Just a little bit of mixed use brings a great many benefits. For example, some trips out on the regional road network get shortened, others get eliminated, captured within the neighborhood, and still others become feasible for walking, biking, or transit. All of that helps manage regional traffic. Plus, with those shorter trips, you'll lower everyone's carbon footprint. But that's not all. Mixed land uses allow for flexibility, letting the market drive the mix. That, in turn, also supports the adaptive reuse of beloved historic buildings, extending their lifetime. Next, live-work combinations allow for a better jobs-housing balance. And above all, in a mixed-use neighborhood, you're simply more likely to get to know your neighbors and support local businesses. For all of these reasons, mixed-use neighborhoods are incredibly popular with both households and employers. Mixed land uses. It's number 7 on my list of town planning stuff everyone needs to know. For more information, visit the Dover Coal YouTube channel, check out dovercoal.com, or read The New Urbanism by Peter Katz.
Any context, Kristen?
I did want to provide some context. I think mixed land uses are important, as he noted, for the variety of intricacies and ways that people can mesh and mingle. And as we watch downtown develop and redevelop even more, we've seen an interest in finishing the apartments on the second floor, which creates mixed land use, residential and commercial. We have opportunities with new properties to have mixed use too, with some of the bigger parcels that are being discussed and coming available, particularly the site south of the town square, that could be a mixed use. And north of the town square along the river, where Tom's Tap and Firehouse Lanes, that could be a mixed use eventually, or mixed use along the First Street parking lot. It's just an opportunity to really maximize the land use. So I wanted to bring that up and make sure people were thinking in that way.
Questions? All right, thank you, Kristen. Couple of thoughts on the remaining agenda items. I see we've got the mayor here as well. And so I wanted to make sure, in respect for her time and Tony and Daphne, that we cover those 2 agenda items for which we really need their input. And then, obviously, you're welcome to stay for the rest of that. So let's move to what is currently listed as item 11, which deals with a site assessment grant for 121 North Water Street. And Kristen, do you want to provide the context around which we're bringing this to the board?
Absolutely. If you'll remember, when we applied for our SAG grant, which is a site assessment grant through the DNR, and it works on the phase 2 environmental study, we applied, and we asked the city to apply because we split our parcel into 2 pieces, but when a private sector entity applies and wants the state to contribute funds to their site assessment in the form of a Phase 2 site assessment grant, they need a public entity to champion that application. So the WIRC has asked the RDA to support their application for a SAG grant, which would conduct the Phase 2 environmental test for the Tom's Tap and Firehouse Lanes property at 121 North Water Street. They had a Phase 1 done, and it did indicate the need for a Phase 2, and they have applied for WAM funding through the DNR, which is also matching funding for the SAG grant. According to the request, they're requesting $125,000 from WEDC, which would be matching funds for the WAM grant as we used it in our project. And in the RDA sponsoring this grant, it doesn't cost us anything. We would help them administer it, but the applicant is so well organized that they even filled out the resolution for us based on our previous template. So it's not going to be a heavy lift on an administrative side, so.
And before we get into the discussion, Daphne and Tony are here from WIRC. Did you have anything you wanted to say in terms of the vision for the property or kind of what the next steps and timeline are?
Well, I think our timeline is that we'd like to get those buildings removed from the property by the end of the year. Somewhat aggressive, but our goal is to have that property and market it and try to attract a developer, possibly even tenants for a developer to come in and build hopefully something along the lines of what Kristen started the meeting with, a mixed-use development, possibly something similar to what was being proposed with higher-end market apartments near the town square site, or anything along those lines. We don't know exactly what. We don't want to tie ourselves in too much of a box there, but we want to find a developer to come in and bring something quality to town that's going to help develop the tax base and get people downtown.
Yeah, I was thinking it might also be helpful just to, because folks around on the board may not know kind of the mission and vision for WIRC itself, and kind of how you came to acquire the property and why.
Sure. So our organization is a group of, I believe, 11 people or couples, either civic-minded people or business leaders in town, who came together and kind of decided that if there was going to be some development downtown, that really some of the private sector needed to step up and kind of put our money where our mouths were as far as trying to purchase some of these properties. I should point out that our stated goal from the start, and a prerequisite of being part of our group was to understand that our goals are essentially altruistic. We are not in this to make money. We're not developers. We are trying to take this property and find a developer, either local or from out of town, to come in and redevelop this site. So, we all pooled our money, frankly paid more than market value for a lot of the properties that we have collected. We want to turn around and sell those properties to a developer at cost to help spur growth.
Any questions on that or on what we've heard so far from anyone on the board? Okay, thank you. So the resolution is introduced under my name, so I will move approval of the resolution that the RDA sponsor the grant. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dave. Okay, so now let's discuss the resolution. Questions, discussion, concerns? Chris?
Doesn't seem like we're on the hook for much, if anything. We're just going to kind of help administer this to get it done, right?
Yes.
Right.
The applicant even filled out the application themselves.
Exactly.
So I didn't have to do that.
Does the grant, if it's awarded, flow through our accounts, or is it through their accounts that we kind of are helping advise them on?
I believe it would flow through our account
Okay.
because I think that the RDA ends up being the applicant, even though it's for their project. That's how it worked with our grant, and any money that we spend with the city under the city's grant needs to flow through them. but we're not spending any money, it's just gonna be coming in and out.
Right. Okay. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the resolution say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, resolution's approved. Thank you. Thanks for coming, and thanks for doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
All right, the next item we're going to move to then is number 9 on the agenda. Discussion regarding planning and programming of the town square, and we've got Melissa and the mayor here. And just to kind of tee this one up, we had been thinking as an RDA from the start that getting the project done and building the square was obviously job number 1, but the lasting impact on the community is really going to be how that square is used and who uses it, and making sure that it is really activated and used by a broad set of the community. So when I think about the vision for the future of the square, a couple of concepts that come to mind for me are coordinated and inclusive. So we want to make sure there's a really good process for people to know how to use the square when they want to use it, what it can be used for, that the ordinances and things are in shape to support the uses people want to have in that square, and then that it's really open to a broad set of the community, and it's not kind of horned in by, by the RDA or by one subset of the community, but open, and programmed in an open way. So I know, Mayor, you have also been thinking along these lines. I don't know if you have some thoughts that you wanted to share. We have this on just for discussion tonight. There's no decision item here, but, as we're moving forward in the pathway of constructing this thing, we want to make sure that we're doing what we can to support the future appropriate use of it.
Can I add something as you're
Yeah.
moving to the microphone? When we were working on the planning of the town square with the Smith Group early on, and we were doing our public input, I was asked to come up with a list of events for each month of the year that would test a variety of sizes of crowds, different amenities that would be needed, things like when would we bring in porta potties, what size event would warrant porta potties, what size event would not, and then different types of things like 5K runs, or what if we held the high school graduation ceremony on the town square? What would all of that look like? So just for hypothetical purposes, we developed a calendar of events that had at least 3 events every month so that we could show year-round use of the town square, and came up with things like an Easter egg roll or a St. Patrick's Day fun run or the Fall Harvest Festival, anything that would use it 12 months out of the year, because it's super important to keep it programmed on a regular basis with big events and small events and multiple events going on at one time. So we've already put some thought into that, and we know that it will be available or designed to be used 12 months out of the year. So.
Yeah, so there's been, the kind of this conversation happening in different variations and different boards and committees. And the one thing that keeps kind of coming to the surface is that it ends up being somewhat of a collaborative approach between the people who already do these types of things in communities. Typically, there's one entity that ends up providing the programming service, if you will. But they do that in conjunction with a body that's typically comprised of these different kind of community event organizers that already exist. So I don't want to speak to, and Melissa, I'll invite you up when I sit down so that you could maybe speak to the different models that you've seen just in the Watertown Main Street or in the Main Street programs throughout the state. But what we feel pretty strongly about is with the staffing that we have internally and the expertise and kind of the wheelhouse that we've found ourselves in, we probably won't, through our Park and Rec program, this space in its entirety. We aren't large event planners. We don't carry the particular types of insurance that you need. I mean, all of these kind of administratively burdensome tasks aren't things that we typically do as a city government, but they are groups that we work with all the time. So I think what I feel like I've talked to different people about is we will likely want to, as a city, either expand a contract or contract out the programming service of the town square. When you get into overtime for city employees and what that means to their fringe benefits that then also multiply with their wage, those types of things aren't things that we're interested or have the capacity to build into a budget. So contracted services are much more easier for us to control financially. So we see that kind of being the path that we would likely take with some type of governing body, if you will, with certain required representation on that body that would guide whatever contractor we select. So, for example, completely off the cuff, when we built the branding committee, it had to have someone from the school district, it had to have someone from healthcare, it had to have someone from business. So we would look to ensure that this governing body for the contractor would have that kind of foundation that encompasses the fabric of the different components in our community now that do these events. So that's kind of the big picture organizational piece that we've been kicking around internally. And then as it pertains to getting events to the square, every special event in the city of Watertown flows, if they follow the process, flows through us. So we get a lot of people that will come and say, hey, I'd love to do this walk. And they come with a route that's just, for whatever reason, going to be completely burdensome. And so we suggest something different, and we typically find a good meeting point. So I think for those events that are already, long established, we will have a natural vehicle to usher them into the town square if that's more appropriate, rather than having the starting point 1 block away from the downtown like most of them are now anyway. We'll just bring them to the downtown. And then we have other events that are currently taking up parking lots. So it would and they're in city-owned parking lots. So all this is to say we have a natural mechanism already to kind of make the movement towards the town square when it's ready. Not that I think it'll need it. I think the vast majority of people are going to want to be there anyway. We will certainly have, I know this isn't about maintenance, but a lot of these events require maintenance. We already have a built-in infrastructure for that as well. So when it comes to preparing a site, blocking off roads, offering, we don't love doing it, but we do have auxiliary police that can provide those types of services. That's already things that we do for events currently, and the town square, I would assume, would just follow similar suit. The one nice thing about, I should be careful, the one component of using an outside contractor that can make it a little bit easier to have events is we can build into that contract essentially some ways to get around some of the rules we have at the city. So, for example, you have to come to us 45 days in advance of an event, and you have to get a permit, and that permit has a fee, and then you have to carry an insurance, and all of these things that have a very good purpose. With a contractor, we would be able to essentially build that into that contract. So if we want to make it so that right now you can't have, we wouldn't want to do this, but you can't have glass bottles in city parks. Let's say we want to have glass bottles at the town square. Those are things that when we do that contract, we could build in. So there's a lot of reasons that I think that vehicle is probably appropriate for us, and it gets us around some of the bureaucratic tape of municipal government. It has a purpose, though. It's just this would be a little bit more controlled. So I think that's kind of where we're at. We have a really vibrant community when it comes to community events the way it is. And so I have no doubt that we won't have many people willing to serve on that governing body or whatever we end up calling it. We did this in this budget cycle. We've started to firm up some relationships the city has with existing entities. We were providing them what we called subsidies, which was not appropriate. So we've shored up some of those most recently with the Humane Society and with the Main Street program. Obviously, if it's a service over a certain cost, we would bid it out anyway. So I'm not saying that it's a natural transition, but we do believe that we would be able to draw our responsiveness to an RFP to program the square. The last thing I'll add is we've talked with the Park and Rec Director about their role in all of this. And I think things that are already in our wheelhouse, so, yoga or outdoor walks and activities, bird watching, those things we already program. I would foresee this person having a seat on that board that would be able to provide those as avenues. And then the rest we can figure out, if we carve out certain times for Park and Rec or certain times for the library, all of those things can be discussed through that body. So that's where we're kind of at. Happy to answer any questions or concerns that you have, but
Emily, thanks for taking the time to, one of the questions I asked about the permitting process, so thanks for kind of educating me regarding that contractor relationship that allows you to have some flexibility, it sounds like.
yeah.
The one question I had is kind of time frame. You know, with us looking at next year, and I think part of this for the community is to see that we've got that thought going forward, that this committee's been formed, and now they're working on some of those details and some of those contractual agreements and that whole process. What would that look like to you? What do you think's realistic, just based on what you guys are facing as a city government, to actually get this created and kind of bring them to the table?
I don't have the most specific of answer because it would depend who the successful contractor is. If it's an entity, we have an existing relationship and it's an add-on to a contract, far easier.
Okay.
If the RDA or another entity or a grant or something ends up, supporting the first year of getting it moving, whether it's through, having someone from the RDA assist in getting the process going, I think, if I don't have anyone from the city help me, it's going to be me that would be facilitating these meetings and these conversations. That's what it's been up to this point. And Randy Wojtaszek, our recreation director, would partake in that too. The biggest hurdle for us is always, the funding mechanism. I don't get to say this very often, but we do have a couple of funds that are non-tax levy supported that could potentially support this service. Ongoing, that's something the committee would have to figure out, but enough to get it off the ground before the town square is running and essentially has its own, I presume at some point will have its own revenue stream. I think we'd be able to at least get it operational as soon as we're ready for it to move.
All right, so, yeah, I mean, I think, obviously we have a vested interest as an RDA, to help you. So if we were to come up with some thoughts and reach out to you and help kind of carry that water forward over the next couple of months to get that going, that could work for you? I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Just trying to work backwards from what we're currently thinking construction completed fall of '21, right?
Mm-hmm.
So working backwards from there, obviously on the day of the ribbon cutting, we want to start from that day with the thing programmed out for a period of time in advance, right?
Yeah, or have some kind of culmination event. I mean, I guess depending on what's going on in
Right?
pandemic world, I don't know. I mean,
Ideally, we'd want.
ideally, we have something ready to go.
Well, I
You-
mean, there's naturally events, like right at the top of my head, I thought the Santa House. Obviously, the Santa House shifts to the town square versus on the plaza. There are other events that happen in the late fall, like there's the women's only weekend, that's a heavy event downtown. I mean, can we throw up a tent and have their dinner reception be there? Because they probably won't have the traditional dinner reception they have anyway. So I think for those, I mean, fall and winter is a pretty less than ideal time to program an outdoor space, but I think we'll have natural items that will happen in those early months. And then there are a lot of events that start right away. For us as a city, I'm not worried about programming it out,
Okay.
not at all. I mean, it's going to be the most beautiful space in our community. I don't know why people wouldn't be rushing to use it versus some of the spaces that they currently have to use just because of size. We hold events in parking lots of schools,
Right.
so I think we'll be all right.
Other thoughts or discussion? Yeah, Melissa, would you mind using the microphone? Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Glad to take this off, thank you. It's just my excuse, I could take my mask off. The Main Street program has programming throughout the year, and there's a lot of things that we'd like to do that we haven't done because we haven't had a space yet. So, I mean, we're waiting for the town square, and the town square is going to enable our existing events to grow. Through the Wisconsin Main Street program, there's a couple other communities that have already done recently what we're planning to do. So I think it would be natural to go visit those communities, work with those program directors, and, find out from them what was difficult, what was a success. I mean, we all help each other in that way. But, even thinking about when I first moved to Watertown, the Main Street program had tried to have ice carving sculptures downtown. And it was done on the sidewalks in front of businesses. And it was really hard to see them because there were always cars parked in the way. And then, if it wasn't a well-lit area, sometimes they suffered a little bit at night. But I mean, that's what I see happening in the town square during the winter months, is ice carving, things are well-lit, of course Santa House will be there. And I know Park and Rec will love that because it's so hard to pack it onto the plaza. But, I can almost see the town square really shining in the wintertime. But it will be used all year long. And, I run the farmer's market, and we haven't done much this year because of the coronavirus. But, the YMCA reaches out to me during normal years and says, hey, we would like to do a demonstration for seniors or a demonstration for youth at the farmer's market. Can we have some stall space? Of course. So I think whoever's programming this can rely on the Park and Rec Department, the YMCA, different arms of the school district to help bring activities. And the public library will be, I think, a key partner in planning the town square, because most of what they do is going to spill out during the warmer months onto the park. It's going to be great.
Awesome. Any other discussion on this item?
I think my follow-up point would just be that, something we should look at. We formed committees when we first formed the RDA based on just need. We looked at loans and some other committees, and it seems to me as we continue to evolve, and now we're into this part of the process, I just want to throw out, putting a committee together just around getting the programming, or I don't know how to describe it, maybe the programming structure and get the platform ready, for handoff. The RDA is not going to manage it once it's done, but for the next 12 months, we can play a role in helping facilitate and support the mayor and the city in general. I want to suggest that, because that'd be a committee that I think would, pay dividends.
Yeah, and maybe we could work in coordination and do some of the, the legwork of preparing the documents, or, helping with the RFP, preparing drafts, that
We've
kind of thing.
actually started gathering good examples from other communities. Jeannie's done a ton of research on contracts and agreements for use of, and, things like that. We have a whole flash drive full of those documents of best practices in running a public space, so.
I would just add to that, so I can think of spaces in Green Bay that have had this type of revolution, but also like La Crosse. They have a convention center, not the same thing as a town square, but still, it's going to be the closest we've come to as a city to having like a market-ish, not as bad as La Crosse, but a market-ish dependent revenue stream. We could potentially make money off of parts of the town square. So when we do form this committee, that's something that I want to make sure we bring into the mix, is who kind of has played a role or has experience in, whether it's a convention center or a library that rents out space or whatever it is. I don't want us just to focus in on outdoor areas, because we will have plenty of people who know programming and know outdoor space and know how to bring us to that finish line, but someone who can speak to us about the things it sounds like Jeannie has researched, contracts and agreements and what we provide and don't provide, and the ins and outs of that, I think, is going to be a pretty heavy lift if it's left up to just myself and the city attorney.
That's easy technical assistance that we can
That
bring
would
to
be
the
great.
table, yeah.
Super, okay. Great,
So we'll look at,
yeah, we'll do that.
put it together.
Yeah,
I'll spearhead it for us.
good. And I think, I kind of operate on like the timeline, so I think in my mind, I'm thinking a goal could be, really want a fully formulated plan and activated kind of group that is going to do this by July of '21. I'm thinking by July of next year, this thing should be fully operational, whatever this thing is. And we may slip on that, we may hit it earlier, but I don't want us to get to September and we're 30 days away from a ribbon cutting, and now we're like, okay, let's start nailing the plan down.
Yeah, I guess on my, to that end, I was thinking formation of this group, working with the mayor, that by the end of this year, it's been identified, and now we're, first quarter of 2021, if it's working through the contract, or whatever needs to be figured out, I would think it's got to be figured out between December and March, and that group needs probably 4 or 5 months to really, what are your thoughts, Melissa? How much time do you need, once this group is formed, based on your experience from event planning? What's that?
I always feel like I live 9 months to a year in advance, just because I think we're really lucky in Watertown, because right now, we can take so much of what's already happening and incorporate the town square into it. But when we want to start having larger events, larger alcohol-related events, events that have a lot of music associated with it, bringing acts in to performing, that's going to be where we're going to have a lot of assistance with contracts. You know, it's tough to say, but I've been thinking for a while that we need to start now, figuring out what we want to do in terms of programming that would be bringing entities in that we would need legal documents. I think that's going to be the most complicated part of it. And we do want to shorten the normal city permitting process to be able to get things done. And we haven't even discussed how to handle alcohol in the town square. And that's, you know, we're having a craft beer walk on the 27th, and we're obviously not having an after party behind the Drafty Cellar just because it wouldn't be safe this year. But if we had that beautiful open space on the town square where we could be having the gathering afterwards, outdoors, where it's safe, it'd be perfect.
Have you,
Figure out how to do that within the law.
yeah, I mean, you talk about those contracts, you know, out loud, I'm just thinking, you know, obviously, we've had Riverfest for, 25 years, and I'm thinking I'm sure you're already thinking that too, it's like, there's people, hopefully, you know, that we can at least learn from in Smith Group, but from that, point, I think that's something that we're gonna have to work on over the next 90 days, probably fairly, with a lot of focus.
Yes.
Are you smiling behind the mask? I can't tell.
I am.
Almost like add it to the list.
It's nice now, no one can tell. Yes, so there are ways that we can safely and legally get through a permitting process. The city, if things are city-sponsored or city-owned like Riverfest is, we don't have to license ourselves. There's also ways to build into contracts that they would essentially get their own liquor license, and this entity, whomever it is, would then be the license holder for events on the town square. So there's a few different ways we can do that. I'm smiling because we're about to hit the busiest time of our year.
Season?
Which is budget season. So, and still actively, like on a daily basis, managing a pandemic. So I don't want to overcommit. But, so like when you said 90 days, I'm like, okay, like counting out in my head. But yeah, I mean, can we get the ball rolling? Yes.
Okay.
And it is going to be helpful for us to have some idea by late September, early October, what that dollar value would need to be. It doesn't have to be finite, but we need to know what we're going to bake in to a budget. It's not an infinite amount of money by any means, but.
Well, we'll definitely take responsibility, I mean, to get us to that point, and, obviously you have to meet where you're at, but I don't think it won't be for lack of RDA putting effort into it. So
Yeah,
I think
no,
we'll
I
definitely
don't
make it a
doubt that.
focus.
Emily, have you considered room taxes for, good, because this would be a perfect, yeah, okay.
When I said I have a few budgets, that was the one I was thinking of. Obviously, this year room taxes, who knows what, but.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a natural use of our portion of those
Absolutely,
funds.
okay.
Yep.
Jeannie?
So one of the things that, I'm hearing build it and they'll come, but you have to tell people to come. And depending on how far, where you want to draw your audience from, if it's just Watertown, 2 months and things that have happened year after year, people just, it's like annual. But if you're going to be advertising in, say, Madison or Milwaukee or Chicago, I think part of the thing the committee needs to do is, where do we want to get these people to come from? And there'd be advertising budgets and things in that. So just be mindful that where are these people coming from? And it might cost you to tell them. But then when they come, they bring money, which you like. Money's good.
Thank you. All right, great discussion. Nate, thank you for agreeing to spearhead that. And we will start building in to our agendas then under the status reports, a programming team report that we'll be looking to you for then.
The last thing I'll add is I'd just be mindful of who else serves on that committee, so
Yeah,
that we don't.
we'll
run into
work in
quorum issues.
coordination with you
Okay.
on that.
I just don't want to run into a quorum problem.
You bet. Yep. Great point.
After that rousing education session you guys had yesterday, you should know exactly what that is. You don't need any walking quorums. All right, thank you.
Excellent. All right. So now we're back up on number 7, our status reports. Kristen, with Matt not here, is there anything from the loan review team
The loan review team has been fast and furiously gathering more information from every borrower. Credit reports have been pulled. We think we have all the pieces now, but we're dealing with volunteer bankers that are busy in their own schedules, and they have not been able to meet as a group to approve the loan applications we have. We were still gathering estimates as late as last week. So what Matt asked me to report is that they hope to have some approvals next week, and they would like to have you be ready for an emergency or a off-schedule RDA meeting to approve the loans, because he doesn't want these borrowers to have to wait another month.
Okay.
And if we have to do a virtual meeting, the precedent has been set for virtual meetings, but he thinks it's important enough to call us back before next month if you guys are okay with that.
All right, well, we'll cross that bridge then. We'll try to get a quorum together. Yep.
Okay.
Can I just add to that? We actually have 2 facade grant projects that are waiting on their RDA loan before they finish their exterior work, and our grants expire at the end of the year.
Got it.
Thank you.
That's putting pressure on.
All right, design input team, Dave?
Well, we have a meeting tomorrow, our first meeting at 9. So we'll have an update next time.
Okay. And is Smith Group participating in that
Yeah.
now? Is that where, yeah, great.
They're leading it, yeah.
Super, all right. Jeannie and Kristen, community support and communications.
Did you want to show these?
I do, if I can get it to work.
Using our technology.
Okay. Do you want to do that first? That's a separate agenda item. Should we do the? That's fine. Oh, brochures, it's in there too. Okay. This one? Do we want to do the fundraising brochure first? Okay. All right, this is a 2-sided piece. I have one hard copy here. But we're working on how do we tell our story to folks that we might want to be making significant asks to contribute to the town square. And this also will serve as a piece for some of the community engagement activities for smaller contributions. But what we're hoping to do with this piece is have a full color, glossy, nice printed piece, maybe not glossy, but a nice printed piece that will have an image of the town square on the front, which is here, with the slogan, "Your opportunity begins here." When we open it up, and I don't know if you can, you're not going to be able to read all of this, but I love this image of the town square across the top in cross-section, looking from the south, because we have the library plaza here with the community table. We have the community plaza with the interactive fountain and a shelter or fire table / fire pit here. We have the performance plaza here, and then the Rock River Dock area here. And I love that image and the way it's laid out on here. I thought that worked out really well. We have a history of the RDA's activities starting in 2016 when the RDA was created. Officially, the resolution was in 2016. We came into existence in 2017 based on our being asked to do work from the plan that was created in 2014. So this piece might get a little bit rearranged to have the 2014 plan. In 2018, we acquired the buildings. In 2019, and this is high-level summary. There's a lot of stomach acid in here. But Smith Group designing the block, 2010 or 2020, the demolition and the remediation being complete. The design hopefully will be approved. Smith Group's been retained to complete the design and the construction documents and put out the bids and get the permits. And then in 2021, construction will begin with an anticipated completion of the fall. We discussed adding a mission, vision, and an overview here. Mission being to provide a sense of place for building community. The vision, create a world-class open-air gathering space for people of all ages and abilities to enjoy. And then the overview, we listed the budget which was presented by Smith Group through the design work. And these are big picture, big kind of lump sum numbers that are still being refined, but this was their best estimate last year when the town square was designed. This project overview section identifies each of these areas here with a little bit more detail. We have the funding piece here where we hope to, we have committed as an RDA $1 million. We are hoping to request $1 million from the city of Watertown here, and that request had the first step of it made to the finance committee in June, I believe. I made a presentation to the finance committee, and I'll be coming back to them with a formal request and a resolution to go to the city council in the very near future. We hope to then get the community engaged for the remaining amount, which would be 1.8 if we got to this $3.8 million number. So far, we've applied for about $500,000 in grants, but we don't know where those are at yet. One of the grants that we applied for in the amount of $150,000, I saw a preliminary outline of a proposal from the DNR, which had us slated for $143,000 of the $150 we asked for. So that felt good, like good news to me, but it's nothing concrete yet. It was just a proposal from the DNR. This outlines the commitments that I just outlined. The city of Watertown isn't firm yet, but there's an asterisk there that it's pending. And then there are these lists of opportunities for larger commitments as well as smaller commitments. Each item has a number by it. We don't know if that's going to be the number. We're still refining those numbers.
Can you read through them, Chris?
I can. We have the library plaza for $150,000 and the community table for $25,000. I think that should be that should be higher. I don't know about the community table, but each of the larger commitments has a smaller component of it here underneath. So the community plaza.
Maybe we just overview that. I mean, this is such a rough draft document.
draft.
It was my fault. I forgot to tell Rob that it's just a working document that we didn't,
Yeah, because I was not prepared to kind of pick a price yet.
We're not
for any of
picking,
these.
yeah, these were
Okay.
placeholder prices, and we're not ready yet to pick a price. We also would like to think that there's an opportunity for an overall naming right / for the whole block.
Got it.
But to show the RDA that we have thought of things like letting people sponsor seating boulders, trees, bike racks, planters, light poles, commemorative bricks. This retaining wall back here along Main Street could be an opportunity for people to purchase bricks, but we haven't finalized any of this with the design committee yet. We're still, it's hard because it's a chicken and an egg or a cart before the horse kind of thing. We have people who are interested. I've gotten a call already from somebody who wants to sponsor some seating. And they want to pay for a bench. And we may or may not have benches per se, but what are the opportunities for people to get involved? So that's this piece. And then on the back of the piece over here, we really do want to talk about our commitment to revitalization, measuring the success that's happened so far. Because of the RDA's commitment to the town square, other things have happened in Watertown that we don't necessarily take direct credit for, but if we weren't doing the town square, they wouldn't be happening. Like some of these buildings that are being acquired by private investors downtown because they know this activity is happening on the town square.
a revolving loan fund. I mean, that's.
Revolving loan fund is listed in here. So we have the number of, we want to identify the investments in the number of buildings that have been purchased, how many buildings, what the occupancy rate is downtown, the facade grants from Main Street, the number of loans that we've made. We've lent out close to, well, if we lend all of our money, which we pretty much programmed ourselves to do at our last meeting, we'll have loaned over 600, well, we've loaned $600,000.
So we've invested, I like to think about it as an investment.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. Those are our assets,
Absolutely.
you know, downtown. So I think it's a really important story that we're a part of, obviously working with other groups in the community like Main Street Program, and we can, you know, the library, there's other things happening, but we should be talking about those. I mean, my main takeaway in this, if you go back to the first page there, is, you know, we had a plan about us contributing. We've been talking to the city about them contributing, which, I mean, we're working through all that. But, you know, we're talking about $2 million sitting there, and then, you know, we're aiming for $500,000 in grants, you know. And so if the $500,000 in grants comes a little different, well, that difference is made up, and we're going to have to approach it, you know, as we've always thought, with some private. But I think it's important everybody understands that, you know, since, 2017, as we just recounted our history, we're following our path.
What we don't have listed in here is the $2.5 million that through us, the city has already spent acquiring, relocating, demolishing. It's been more than that because we put in some of our own money for the demolition too. So
That investment that you just talked about, again, I think that's a great point. I'm glad we're talking about it. We should make sure it's included, because that's an investment in not just today, but the future of the community, as you heard the mayor discuss, that we haven't really had a space. We've got great parks, of course. We haven't really had a space like this.
And then this other side of here is it really keys in on the programming piece of what we just talked about and how important it is going to be to program that piece and keep it a vibrant, dynamic, active block in the community. So this overviews that it will be a destination, and it will attract and host a variety of events which will draw people, not just from the community, but from outside the community, and become a real magnet for the downtown economy.
Jeannie, as you think about the purposes and the uses of this document, once it comes together and it's all finalized, tell us kind of what you're thinking.
Well, I think,
What's the approach here?
all right, so we'll have this, but there'll be other ones. So when we go to when you're talking to somebody about maybe a larger donation opportunity like the Library Plaza, there will be an insert that it will detail more things. So you know, we've talked a little bit about it. Now, if I sponsor the Library Plaza, do I get my name on the Library Plaza? You know, what are things? Do I get my own special day that my company can come? You know, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff that can be gimmies. And, you know, where will my signage be? Will I have signage in the community? You know, how will that be listed in press releases? You know, come to the Nate Salas Library Plaza, you know, for this event. And so there's a lot of details that, like contractual things that would be in that list. And so those are things you can give and take and sweeten the deal if somebody's ready to move. Because as, you know, I put my hat on as, would I invest in this? Well, you better give me 10 things that I'm going to get and I can check off the list to make it worth my while and my money. So that would be the separate little document. So maybe we do all the plazas together. I think the Rock River Dock might be a totally different something. You might be going after like a sporting something or whatever. And then again, the naming rights, you know, what do they all get? So that would be a secondary thing. I think, but when given this to somebody, maybe this is the precursor and say, we're going to come and talk to you about this, project overview, so you're not wasting your time in a meeting to talk about that. I think a mission is always good, a vision is always good, so that they know, I mean, it looks solid, like you've actually thought about it. And then the community engagement part, and I just threw, you know, more things in there, but, you know, so the community knows. And, you know, we could even do something like small videos and say, hey, you know, here's some sketches of what these things will be. So I use this as a support, hand it out, and then, I know that there'll be a list of people you want to contact, right? Maybe send this out as the precursor piece.
I wonder if, this is a great discussion as we're thinking it through. I'm thinking about getting involved in the conversation with potential people who may have an ability and a desire to make one of those higher dollar number donations. We should not assume that those folks would want the community to know how much they gave. And I'm beginning to think that maybe the way to structure a document is to have the big items, the menu, if you will, but not the price tag, at least for the big ones, because everybody's situation is different. And, I think some folks may want their confidentiality even respected. And so for the smaller ones, I think that makes a ton of sense, because we may have 100 people in this community that would say, I would love to give $750 to put my name on a boulder or whatever, But when we're talking about $750,000, that's a whole different animal.
Well, and I think when you go out to talk to somebody, do you start high with your ask and, you can whittle away a few things and get to where you really want to be? I mean,
Each one is going to be absolutely unique.
We will. Yeah.
Each one of those conversations is absolutely unique to the individuals involved, I think. And so that's the challenge, I think, for the document is it has to be useful in these multiple contexts. But I feel very strongly as I'm talking it through anyway, that I don't think the big dollar price tags should even be set. Because I think what we could do is ultimately one of us may have somebody who tells us, I want to give this much to it. I would be comfortable once we work out the details. Then I think it's on us to come to the board. And, each one of those could be a one-off, unique.
Yeah, I think this can, as you guys talked about, it's a great foundational piece. We can sanitize it a little so it, plays a different crowd, but then have the additional, appendices essentially to add in, based on what we're talking about. So I think it's a great point you bring up, Rob, to make sure that it's versatile, regardless of who the audience is. But I think it's a good start.
It's a great start.
I mean, I really was impressed with just kind of how it flowed. I mean, I like that picture, and I like the points we're hitting. I think those are really important, telling a story.
one thing is, if we do keep numbers out for somebody who's really, a little nervous about this, and when they add it up, oh gosh, you're short, where's that money coming from? And so if you don't add numbers and you just, everything's negotiable, then somebody has less chance to say, well, if you add all those numbers up, it's not going to equal this. And if you have somebody who wants naming rights, as I told Nate, if somebody wants to bring $23 million to the table, Nate said they can name it whatever they want. And then you really would need to sell these other, portions. And that could be another thing. Somebody says, I'm going to buy the whole thing.
Yeah, but even that, Jeannie, I don't want to get argumentative with you, but
Yeah.
even that, I think, is a strategic decision for us
Yeah.
because we get value in terms of buy-in from
Right.
people saying, hey, that brick over there is my piece of it.
Yeah, and I
know?
think the community engagement piece should always stay. I know when we had one of our first meetings, people said, we're good at bricks in Watertown. And we're really good at buying bricks in Watertown. And that would be something you wouldn't want to take away from people. You're good at bricks?
Great at bricks. No, that makes me think of a question. What do we anticipate the community buying is going to be? Are we going to hit our $1.8 million or whatever the number was? Or do we think we're going to have a hard time getting there? Or is there a chance we go way over that? And then what do we do with that extra? What was the number we got to read? 1.8?
So if we say this total budget number here is 3.8, and we
Yeah.
hope that the city will contribute $1 million, and we have $1 million, then that leaves 1.8 between grants and private investment.
And we're optimistic that we can hit that number comfortably at a certain time frame. And What's their drop dead?
I have always been optimistic about that personally, and I believe that that's why we're working so hard to get a document like this out there. We've already had a couple of potential parties that have been interested. We don't have anything to show them yet. So in order to meet that demand, so to speak, if we could get in front of those folks as soon as possible and then continue to work at it as the design gets refined and we get more concrete on what's coming in. I don't see us putting out a thermometer and saying we've hit our goal, but there will also be an interest, I think, in making sure that some of the components are sustainable, such as maybe some funds for maintenance of the fountain. So, things like that that we'll need, or the dock, what, is it gonna cost extra to remove the dock and store it each winter, or, things like that. So we have to be mindful that if we do have an opportunity to bring in enough money to service the block too, that we look at that.
So what's our drop dead date to raise our $1.8 million that we'll be comfortable with?
Well, bills are already coming in, and so I see our funds being the first ones to be spent because we have that money. We're gonna need it all as soon as possible, as soon as we.
Well, I don't know. Let's think about we're working on construction documents. So to me, the drop dead date really becomes, the next real hurdle is when those documents are finalized, we go to bids, and we actually get concrete bids for what it's really going to cost, because these are high-level numbers.
Sure.
And I think once we see that, that's going to really be a clarifying moment for us. And I don't know, I'm optimistic too, because I love the project, and I think the community's going to love it. But I also, I don't really know the answer, Chris, because none of us have done this before, and we don't have a consultant doing it for us, so this is really on us to try to raise a few big gifts.
And we talked to Smith Group about flexibility when those numbers come back, because again, we've got room in here. This, again, high level. There's still room that we can maneuver and be flexible on bottom line cost or final cost.
So we can throw
timing.
something out or.
Correct.
Yeah,
and-
or there's some stuff that the mayor's already identified, like, hey, potentially we got city staff that could do some of that, and we could negotiate as a contractor how that works. So there's flexibility there. And I think too, we talk about flexibility of, okay, we've got our million, the city's million, that's 2 million, wherever our grants sit. So if we're pretty close to 2.5, we're 75, 80% of the way there. How can we negotiate that? What can start? So I think we're going to be as creative and as aggressive as possible. But hey, it'd be great if, in my own world, if we had money commitments figured out by end of the year, first quarter next year. I think we're going to be moving on it, and hence this piece. And we're not going to be resting. It's going to be happening here pretty soon.
I think first quarter is a great goal.
Yeah, it seems right to me too. Melissa?
Just a suggestion, the library just went through this. I'd recommend that the RDA have a conversation with the campaign leadership team from the library. Because I'm sure when they were having their discussions with their donors, the town square probably was brought up because these two major projects are happening right next to each other. So some of those individuals may have a lot of insight for you and can maybe help point you in some different directions of people who would be interested in participating in this project.
We'll reach out. That's a great idea. Thank you. That's a good question, Chris. Other discussion on this? We're heading in a great direction. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for the feedback. I think we can refine this piece now and get it ready. So,
Good.
other than that, we are continuing to try to come up with ideas for articles to send to the newspaper. We haven't had as many since the demolition has ended. That was a fun process to follow along with media articles. And we are continuing to get more and more likes on our Facebook page, so more people are following the Watertown RDA on Facebook, which is awesome.
You bring a question to mind that I really wanted to make sure I brought up tonight. I think that the fencing looks good around the square. Should we have no trespassing signs hanging on there? Did that occur to anybody to, is that a bad idea? Does it look terrible, or should they be on there?
I think the fence is a no trespassing signal, but
Probably not along Main Street, but there's a gate near the old access behind the buildings, and that was open for a time, and there was a big, like, oil drum sitting there. I don't know if it's still there. I don't know who did that, but the gate was open for a while.
so I asked Smith Group to ask the surveyors to close the gap there, and so that's when it got sealed up. But Peg Check, I actually was watching it for us and emailed the mayor, and so we've got eyes on the square.
All right.
But I don't,
I get your
agree.
point.
If we do-
A 7-foot fence is sort of saying, don't trespass.
Subtle message.
Just a question, because this is kind of always my thing. Who is keeping an eye on the sidewalk, the public sidewalk in front of the square for garbage and weeds, and then weeds that are starting to grow inside the fence?
So it's still a public sidewalk, so it's still the city's sidewalk. Weeds inside would be our responsibility, and I can bring my roundup. I like to pull weeds too, if they come out really nice, that's a very satisfying feeling.
Can I ask a question? Could you put up something positive about this is due to the RDA and the city?
So that's our next agenda item.
Yes, that's coming.
That would be better than no trespassing.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
That is something to say.
We have another agenda item, and we'll just move it up from number 10, I guess, if you want to do that here.
Well, let's get through where we're at, and then
Okay.
we'll come to that next. So, is there anything further on communications? We good there?
I think we're good. Yeah.
All right, Chris, Common Council update?
Yeah, so I brought last night's Common Council agenda. So there's a couple items there that support downtown and businesses. One is there's a couple ordinances working their way through the system. Basically, they will make it easier for restaurants and bars, instead of applying for a conditional use permit, to have music and entertainment inside, out in their parking lot in kind of a fence-controlled area. Traditionally, you need to do a conditional use permit, and it's a long process, and we're trying to do something to kind of facilitate business for these owners because of the virus, and everyone's business is hurt, to make their lives easier. So a couple ordinances are working their way through the system to remove the conditional use permit process and make it easier for those bars and restaurants to do that sort of thing. Another one was approved a memorandum of understanding with the Main Street program to fund them another $30,000, I think, next year. There was an update in the Finance Committee notes. So when this whole COVID thing broke out and businesses had to shut down, the mayor and a few others got together and decided, well, how can the city support some of these businesses that have had to shut down, and they got rent to pay, they got electric bills to pay and stuff. So mayor found about $60,000 that's available, and we made a program, like a small loan program for businesses. They apply, show that they were closed and they had to still pay bills and stuff. And so through that program, the city granted out about $39,000 to 38 different businesses. So that was a sign of the city supporting local businesses affected by COVID. Two other things to note. There is a new subdivision platted. We just accepted that out in the southwest part of town over by the large Johnsonville plant out there. I think there's about 12 or 15 lots, I think. So, I mean, that's, in my year and a half on the council, that's the first one of those that I've seen go through. So that's good, some growth. And the last Finance Committee meeting, the mayor asked the department heads to put together like a 5-year capital plan, because we're going to start a budgeting process in the next couple months. And it's good to put the big ticket items out there and see where we can fit them in. And a couple of things that I I was excited to see was some upgrades planned for Riverside Park in the next couple of years. The bathrooms is probably the most urgent need out there, so that's likely to be addressed in the next 2 or 3 years. And I saw something in the next 4 or 5 years for a new fire station they're looking to build.
Excellent. You're talking about ordinances made me think that, Jeannie, it might be helpful to us if you could just even brainstorm in a document that, you said the 10 things, that somebody would want to get if they donated. Be great to have just that brainstorm list, because I think we'd want to take that to the city attorney and do a gap analysis to see if do the ordinances allow it? Obviously, before we offer something, we want to make sure we can. Could you do that?
I could.
That'd be awesome. Thank you. All right, and Kristen, Executive Director, update.
Sure. So Smith Group has worked with the geotech firm and the surveying team to complete the geotech analysis and the survey on the town square site. The survey is almost done. They just have to finish up at the river's edge, but they're getting a lot of really good information that will allow them to move forward fairly quickly now with finalizing designs. We haven't received results yet from the Phase 2 on the rest of the block. We do know that the tank leaked under the 111 West Main site, so they were revising their next steps with the DNR on the tank, but we haven't received the Phase 2 results yet on that, under the Watertown Daily Times. The sharp corner letters have been delivered to the Parks Department. They look really good. They're blue. They say sharp corner, and they did the city logo as well. And so those should be installed soon. They were shipped. We saved money on the sales tax being a non-taxable entity, but the shipping was really expensive. So we're still less than the original contract amount, but they're here, so. As Dave mentioned, we're meeting with the design team tomorrow, so Smith Group should have some good direction. I've asked Adam for a timeline, an updated timeline, and he thought he would have it to me before this meeting, but I didn't receive it. Sorry, Rob. And what else? Jeannie and I have been working hard on this document. We'll know a lot more tomorrow after the design team committee meeting with Smith Group. It's been a lot of waiting for these other folks to get their work done, so.
Questions for Kristen? All right, thank you. July financial reports. So I saw you emailed those, and do you have copies as well?
I don't. I don't.
Did folks get a chance to look at those prior to the meeting, or are you able to look at them now?
I would be bringing them.
And if you're not, then we can always put this off to our next meeting. Is there any objection if we take it up now? Good, okay. So the July financial reports, are there any questions?
Oh, I just got the timeline at 6:25.
All right, I would move approval of the financials. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Bob. Second by Bob. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, very good. And we're on to discussion and approval of the design and acquisition of the banners for the town square. And Daphne is no longer here, so she's not going to know.
That's not it.
Kristen, you want to take this?
I do. Let me see if I can. That was in the same part of the flash drive. There we go. Which one is it, Jeannie?
Both of them, one of them has the banners on
Oh,
the,
on the fence. Okay.
right.
So-
And so our thought there is,
Well, let me,
Whoops.
I'll pull up the concepts first, okay? So we have 3 designs, because as you could see from the other, there's a long fence Oh, she left. There's a lot of fence there, and so Jeannie wanted to come up with different concepts, but to cover the space on Main Street. Which, if you get close enough, you'll see the diagram and how it lays out here with opening fall 2021, Town Square. This is opportunity, right here, right now, it's ours, Watertown. And then future home of Watertown's Town Square. Limited sponsorships, opportunities available. And that's how they would look on the fence. We priced these out and they came in far less than we thought.
171 apiece.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
So just over 500 for the 3 banners.
What were we thinking on spending?
We thought we'd budget $1,000 for banners, so we didn't know.
Yeah.
Is that what you asked?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, would we get more or want to
Right.
make them bigger
Just
to?
thinking, yeah.
I mean, the banners are beautiful, I think, but if we could make them bigger to cover up more of that fence.
Agreed.
That'd be nice.
Yep.
It'd be cool to see this design, this image on one banner. Could we stretch it out?
What are you
It's like-
pointing at with your finger?
Oh, can you see, you can't see the mouse going on there? This, I was thinking if this could be one banner, you know, that graphic. If we want to get another banner, but then I don't know what we do with this one.
Well, I mean, you could stretch that out and then have like a half-size one on the side explaining what it is,
Oh, yeah.
or split it. The one thing is, when you're sitting at that four-way, that's probably when people will read them the most. And so do we, instead of having all of them all the way across, do you sort of put them at that corner? Because when what message do we want to have the town read? They'll read the message when they're at the stop signs. So I thought this is your opportunity, going back to, making people excited about it, but also giving people ownership. And I have none in front of the library. I don't know if that's a good thing, bad thing. I don't know how much traffic's on Water.
I was going to ask that question, because if you're parking coming down Main Street, I mean, you should be able to see that corner, that's Water Street, that's across from the library. People get, we should, I mean, I don't think we need 3, but if you had at least one in that corner, a big one right at that,
And there's a lot of activity coming out and into the library.
yeah.
I was just thinking maybe if there's room for all 3 on Water Street, to just make another set. Put 'em
I
on the Water
agree,
Street.
yep. And then I'd add at least another one on Main. Or do some other concept, Jeannie, like you were describing, one of them gets, maybe it's longer, but we need to just fill more of that fence. Since we have the budget to do it. What do you think, Bob?
I like Kristen's idea, having the diagram spread out. If you can make it big enough so you can read even the little words at the bottom sign as you're going by. Not that you're taking your eyes off the road, but so you can glance and read it as you go. If you can make it bigger, be nice. They do look very nice.
They do.
So the one thing is, Melissa had asked, should we be putting them inside versus on the fence in case people come through and rip them apart or, put graffiti on? And so I talked to Aaron David, and he's like, well, we'll just make a new banner then. And of course, we'll have to pay for it, but, so we did think about, should we put them on the opposite side, but we're going with faith that,
I think you want to put them on the outside.
The
If you're
fence
looking
will-
at them some kind of angle, then the chain link is going to skew.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yep.
got to look at it dead straight on.
If they're going to destroy it, they're going to destroy it. Like a no trespassing sign, if they're going to no trespass, they're going to.
Well, if these
That
lights are
might
still
give 'em more to
working,
go on it.
True.
hopefully it'll be
Challenge.
bright enough.
Kristen, can you put the other one up again, the other slide? So I'm just thinking about that top one. Can that image be done in a way that actually mirrors the square? Because it's opposite.
that's a great idea. Then it would be, because I think they're 3 by 12, maybe? I could look in my document. It'd have to be double the size, and then it would go all the way across the whole entire side of it'd be the whole entire block would be a banner.
We'd have to ask Smith Group to do that design because they.
Oh, this
they
is the
came at it
image we've
from-
got.
From the south angle.
got you.
Yeah, they
Yep.
did this. This was in their, but there are other graphics, there are other angles that they portrayed the town square that would be this shape. Remember looking from the east? Like the northeast, looking at the town square from the northeast and looking at the town square from the northwest? So we could put some of those images on square banners or line them up on a banner so you'd have 3 angles on one banner. I love those images. We might want to use those.
So we could put those and say coming fall 2021. and
Yep.
So, just like we did the boards that we sent out to the
Yep.
banks, and I think there's one here at the city and library, maybe?
Yes.
So if you want 3 more banners, we could put some of the images, like you are here. We could put an X on the.
Oh, yeah.
Could put an X on the sidewalk.
The one looking from, the actual image looking from this corner, you could put on that corner.
Mm-hmm.
And the image looking from this corner, we could put.
That's right, yep. Mm-hmm.
How big are those?
I guess I would ask that we, instead of bringing them back here for approval again, we just trust Jeannie's creative design capabilities, and now that we know you want more of the fence covered, we can just
Yep,
spend the $1,000 and get it covered.
Do it.
yeah. We'll make a motion to do that in a second. Yeah, I agree, yeah. And then can you put them back up again? So the other one is on the bottom there, the limited sponsorship opportunities available. I do like that idea of getting that out there. I don't know whose phone number we put on there.
Nate's.
That'd be awesome.
And say call between like midnight and 3 AM.
Ron Burgundy.
Do we do no phone number, but just start getting this messaging out there that, the fundraising's coming?
We could put the website, and if you go to the RDA website, like now I just have a little video on the front of, can you get the RDA website? We could put something on the front that says, click here, and just a fill-in form that goes to somebody, and I'm interested in, so it's a place to collect names.
That's a good idea. Mm-hmm.
And you could put, if, how much are you willing to donate? So this little picture is a movie. See, now the movie changes.
we go.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that would be on the corner by the lights.
Cool.
But I could put something, a bigger area for fundraising. And then once some of the numbers are more gelled and probably more community, then put something there. And if there's a form that can be clicked and people say, yeah, I'm interested in.
Yep,
That's good.
okay.
Good job, Jeannie.
Was the fall 2021 on the banner?
Yeah,
Was it?
I haven't looked at them. There's, fall 2021 is on the banner someplace, right?
Is it?
You have it up here at the top of the top one, and, yeah, just up at the top on that top one.
But again, with that whole, cross-section, there could be a bigger banner that says Town Square Fall 2021.
I think that could really generate some excitement to see that,
Okay.
this is going to sit like this for 5 years.
Yep, yep. Great.
I kind of was excited to hear that tonight. Oh, we are moving forward.
It's all on your
The
shoulders.
train has left the station, David.
That's right.
It really
that's
has.
right.
Well, does someone want to make the motion?
So moved. You need me to say something?
Moved by Dave, and that is to approve Jeannie and Kristen to move forward with banners within a budget of $1,000. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Second that.
seconded by Chris. Is there any discussion? We'll have to take a roll call because we're spending money. So all those in favor say aye as your name is called. Nate?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. That motion is approved. Thank you both. Jeannie, those are great. Kristen, those are awesome. That's going to be a big improvement. Cool. All right, so we are, I believe, down to number 12, which is, does anyone have a future agenda item that you'd like to make sure we include in our next meeting? All right, very good. Next meeting date.
Could I just say something?
Yes.
I know you had said somebody talked to you about the thing that Kristen said last month about, why, where's all this
The tax
tax?
base, yeah.
If you go on the website really does have a lot of cool things. If you go under Town Square Updates, Project Highlights, there's a bunch of videos there that you can have people look at. And then there is a new movie starring Kristen.
Where's that?
Here, if you go to Town Square Updates, and then it says, is Watertown losing property tax revenue from buildings being torn down? Click to see video. And
Can you change that? The wording?
yeah,
Is Watertown is losing property?
From the buildings that were torn down
Who
in
isn't?
a given year
Who
were
isn't?
approximately $25,600. That value, while significant, could be easily replaced by the development we're hoping to have on the parking lot south of the town square, which, if it's between $8 and $10 million, will pay between $150,000 and $175,000 in taxes per year. So in 1 year, we're exponentially increasing the amount of property tax base that we removed in the blighted buildings that were on Main Street where the town square is going. And that's exactly what an investment like this park is designed to do in a community like Watertown. It's designed to increase property tax base on the buildings that are still there, but also attract other development. And that's evidenced by the interest that we've had from other developers and from investors who are buying buildings downtown to make investments in. So already, I think if we did this study, we probably can look at the buildings that were vacant and how they're being repurposed, and could come pretty close to recapturing that $25,000 in tax base. But we hope to recoup it exponentially on the site south of the town square.
We also put the incubator back on the tax roll.
We did. And that was a $500,000 assessed value, which is more than any one of those buildings that was there. So that would be a significant amount of tax base, so good point.
Yeah, so I had a resident, after 2 weeks ago, a common council meeting, I was talking to on the sidewalk, and he asked me, why'd they tear down all those buildings? They're losing all that tax revenue, and I had remembered, not the specific numbers, but I got pretty close. And I shut him right up. That was great.
so again, whenever there's a question, tonight there wasn't anything that I took a video of, but having those, we put them on our Facebook page, and just having this be a place for questions. And, you tell people, go to the Town Square Updates. We've got, and all the questions that people had early from the Facebook, and, there was some, those questions are all here. And then I keep up to date on the news, so a lot of the news that we've done. But you need a subscription to the Watertown Daily Times. But that's the least of our worries.
These are a lot of Q&A here, though, that are frequently asked questions from the Facebook page. The different pages, not just ours, but the ones that have discussions where they get kind of negative. So we tried to answer a lot of those questions, so.
Great.
So there's a lot, and then if you all want to see your pictures, you want to go,
No, it's about the RDA, isn't it?
yeah, about the RDA, and there you all are. And Nate has the longest bio.
4 paragraphs, oof.
That's a lot. What happened there?
And then if you ever need something from the RDA meetings, that's right under there, so all the public records and the minutes will, so there's a lot of good stuff that you can use this as a tool now.
Very good.
Good side. That Q&A is extremely helpful. Thank you for spearheading, and I know it takes work to collect it, to get the answers, to put it up there, and that's huge. Thank you.
The work is worth it, though, because
We
it's
could
there
even
now.
share that,
It's there now, and
well, that Q&A, we should share that maybe with other people in the community getting asked questions. You know, it's probably other, I don't know, maybe Main Street's being asked some questions, or tourism or chamber, so maybe we should send it out and say, hey, we've got a spot you can direct people to, so you don't have to carry the burden, and there's good answers there.
Well, this is really, really good about, hey, here's some questions.
Yeah. So now we got to point people in the right direction, get the answers. So we should share that. Like, if this is finalized,
Note on the Facebook page. It's been here for a while.
Okay.
This video.
I just want to make sure like the chamber, Main Street, tourism all knows exists, so that they can start, even the city people, the department heads, or just share that we have it. That's all I'm saying. Just, it's aware it's a resource.
And is a brochure of the question and answers, is that too old school, or?
Yes. Must be.
Oh, we actually have-
Jeannie was going to be kind. I was going to say, no, Dave.
There's a PDF. I have a PDF if you want me to send it to you. Then you could just send it to people and say, well, here.
Yeah.
Or print it,
That-
hand it out, or.
That's a good point, because the people that object are the
Yep.
my age who aren't into technology and don't, it's old school, but that's where your money is, in the old school.
And
Right.
I was thinking that would be a great thing to have on the counter at the senior center. I know they're not there. But
Good point, yeah. Okay.
Would it be, looking to Chris and Bob here for an idea, would it be helpful, well-received, if Jeannie had 5 minutes on an agenda at a common council meeting to just share the website and what the resources there with everybody? Do you think all older people are getting these kind of questions?
Go ahead.
No, I think that'd be a great idea. Yeah, I'm glad I'm on the air day, so I get the answers to those questions, because every once in a while, I get the questions before that I couldn't answer. So I'm sure I'm not the only one getting those. The rest of the council probably is too.
Well, as Main Street comes periodically to, and the chamber, whoever, we'd be happy to come regularly, but, every other month or once a month, we could take turns. But I think definitely a walk through the website would be fabulous.
Definitely. When I put down what I wanted to be on, I put down RDA because I wanted to find out about it. Because of, as I said last time, the negative feedback I got going throughout the whole neighborhoods. And people believe what they want to believe. They don't look at things. So tonight's been helpful. Kristen, thank you for meeting at 6. This has been very good. And how to get people, the communication part back, one of the agenda items, just how do we get people to see the communication? The Watertown Daily Times, if you get the paper, it's not a Watertown paper. You can read a half page of the Jefferson volleyball team. See the Dodgeland football team on a page of, it's not all Watertown, so it's hard to even get people to get the paper to see what's out there. And if everybody was on the website, that'd be good, but people, my wife is on everything. I'm not so much, so.
Well, we'll reach out and see if we can get on an agenda for the council.
That'd be excellent.
Okay.
That'd be excellent.
All right, let's pick our next meeting date.
I think we can't go on September 9th, I'm sorry. I'm going on a bear hunt. 16th or the 23rd?
I can't do that 16th.
Either one's okay.
How's the 23rd look? I'm seeing some nodding. Bob, will work for you?
Yes.
Okay, let's lock it in. Very good. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
Seconded by Dave. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.